And good evening, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. You are watching ABC News, and the race to the White House at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. More polls closed across the country, including 6 of the 7 battleground states. And we are seeing results come in from several states now. ABC News projecting Trump will win North Dakota, South Dakota, Louisiana, and Texas. ABC News also projects Harris will win Delaware, Maryland, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. As for electoral votes, right now, 30 for Harris, 162 to Donald Trump. As you know, to win, a candidate needs 270. In Florida, with 86% of the expected vote reporting, the Florida abortion ballot initiative is projected to fail. It got 57% of the vote. It needed 60% of the vote to pass. The referendum would have put abortion rights into the state constitution. It's the first time since Roe was overturned that abortion rights have been on the ballot, put directly to voters, and failed. Let's get to our Deputy Political Director, Avery Harper. Avery, exit poll numbers starting to come in as well as voters begin to fill in their ballots. What are some of the key concerns?
Right. When we look at some of this preliminary exit poll data, what we see is that the state of democracy has actually edged out the economy as the #1 issue that voters care about as they consider who to vote for, followed by the economy. Abortion, you see there in the middle with 14% of voters saying that. Immigration, which has been an issue that the Trump campaign has really leaned into, falling there at the 4th slot at 11%, and foreign policy at the end.
Wow. All right, Avery Harper, thank you so much. We'll talk through the night. Let's head to Arizona now, where we find ABC's Elizabeth Schulze. Elizabeth, you're in Phoenix, which is in Maricopa County, the most populous county in the state. The polls there have now closed. What can you tell us about early voting there so far?
So, Kara, it was record voting across the state of Arizona. And here in Maricopa County, now that the polls have closed, they will start to tabulate those ballots. About 60% of all of Arizona's ballots will be counted here. We asked the Secretary of State today how long he expects that process will take. He said this could take 10 to 13 days. So these results could still take some time, Kira. A reminder that President Biden just narrowly won this state by 10,000 votes back in 2020. That was the first time that a Democrat won Arizona since 1996. So this is expected to be a tight race, but we are hearing from an official from the Arizona GOP. They're optimistic about turnout today from Republicans. We're really going to be closely watching those independent voters here, Kira.
All right, Elizabeth Schulze there in Phoenix for us. Thank you so much. All right, so Avery, let's talk about the economy. It was interesting looking at how the various concerns for voters in the exit polls fanned out there. The economy clearly at the top there. I was actually surprised at how low immigration stood, considering all the coverage we've been doing on both of those issues for the past couple of weeks.
Right. We know that perceptions of the economy have been something that have been driving folks to head to the polls. And when you look at this exit poll data, preliminary exit poll data that we're seeing, you see that 32% say the condition of the economy is excellent or good, and 67% say not so good or poor. And that is something that the Trump campaign has been leaning into.
Avery, thank you. I'm Kira Phillips. Stay with ABC News. Our team is bringing you election results all throughout the night. And this just in. Go ahead and New York for Harris. Okay, they're projected by ABC News. There you go. News happening by the second. Stay with us. We'll continue to bring you all the latest results throughout the night.
march to 270. We do have a Senate projection. ABC News can report that in the state of New York, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand will serve a third term. She was seeking the third term. She wins it handily tonight. She'll return to the Senate. Let's get right to the team here. Rick, what are you seeing there in North Carolina?
Yeah, North Carolina is one we have our eyes on because it seems like every serve is being met with a volley as we get into the numbers here. To look at Raleigh, Wake County, that's a place where Kamala Harris needs to be doing very well. She's doing almost exactly what she needs to be doing, and of course, very well in the bluer parts of the Research Triangle area. But when you get out into Trump country, it looks like Trump numbers, and it's really remarkable to see these numbers tracking how close they are, within a tenth of percentage point of our 538 numbers. And just around within a percentage point or so of what we've seen in the past with past Democrats. We've been talking a little bit about Nash County. We're up to almost 90% reporting there in what's something of a bellwether county, a potential swing county. Biden was able to eke out a victory here. Trump is now on the other side of a potential win in that part of the state. So it's really interesting because you can see the candidate strategies in action with Harris seemingly effectively driving up the vote in some more liberal areas. We're waiting on a lot of vote right here in Mecklenburg County. That is Charlotte only about 10% in right now. Too early to really draw too much into what is a big part of the state, but an area where Democrats have had turnout problems in the past.
Yeah, only 10% of the vote in. And what's the benchmark she needs to be hitting there?
Yeah, she needs to be getting about six. Let's look at the number. She gets to be at 67%. She's at 63. Again, it depends on the vote type right now.
Right.
But we don't really have a lot to say about it yet. But that's going to be key if she's going to overcome that deficit of now 115,000 votes with about a little more than half of the vote in.
Let's look at Georgia. What do we see?
Yeah, so Georgia's trending a little bit worse, at least in our numbers right now for Harris. 210,000. Trump seems to be in a pretty good position right now, but we're still waiting on so much vote. But just to take you around a little bit, the Atlanta metro area, we've seen a significant amount of vote in Fulton County. It's a place where Harris has to be winning big, and she is winning big, almost exactly hitting her benchmark. DeKalb County, again, almost exactly at that number. Places where she's racking up big numbers because she's then bleeding support elsewhere in the state, including in some of the outlying suburbs of Atlanta. Donald Trump doing very well in a lot of these places and just bringing up these 19, 20,000, 40,000 votes in all these different counties across the state. And that's why you see now this edge beginning to emerge of 211,000 votes. Gwinnett County is going to be very important here. It's about 8-9% of the entire state. Right now, Harris up about 60-40 there with only about 16% of the vote in. We're going to look at this all night. These are where we think the votes are. Those big blue dots seem to suggest there's a lot there, but all those red dots add up as well. So there's still a good amount of Republican vote. And again,
just explain
Trump
that,
has
if you will,
an edge
again, for the audience looking. The size of those dots actually is proportional to the amount of vote that we believe is still outstanding.
Yeah, for every county, some of them are blue counties, some of them are red counties, some are more purple. And so if it's a 50-50 county, you're not going to get a lot of vote edge one way or the other. But this is really Atlanta and the suburbs. Some of these overlapping dots are so big because the vote share is so large in that area. Some of the smaller blue dots, all of it adds up to a lot of vote that is still out. But we're edging up to about 3/4 of the vote in, and we've seen nights like this develop where it gets harder and harder to make up a gap.
Yeah, it's really interesting. A lot of what you just showed us shows Kamala Harris hitting her benchmark or actually surpassing it marginally, but then Donald Trump actually doing even better than what he had to do in some of these rural counties in Georgia. Ryan, what are you hearing from the Trump campaign?
I'm hearing that they're still very excited about what they're seeing. They're cautiously optimistic about North Carolina. They feel like there's not enough there for the Harris campaign to make up the ground that they need to make up. They're happy about what's happening in Ohio, that they seem to be up by 10 at this point. And historically, Ohio's been in our party sort of a mental issue where if we're not winning by 10 in Ohio, we're worried about everything else, and that number looks good. There is some, they're nervous about Pennsylvania. There's a lot of vote that's out there. They know that there is a ton of early vote that hasn't even been touched. So there's no arrogance about that, but now all the attention is going to start moving to that blue wall. Virginia being tied is another issue that is getting them excited. They weren't expecting Virginia to be tied. There's 60% of the vote in, I think, about now in Virginia. The fact that that's tied and in the suburbs, Trump did not do that badly around Washington, D.C.
could be a signal for other states. The Harris campaign not expecting to lose Virginia, but Rick, can you show us the map that gives us the proportional look at the outstanding vote in Virginia?
Yeah, and look, there's a plenty of Democratic vote. This is the Washington, D.C. suburbs. This is Richmond in the area. This is Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. Lots of Democrats. Some of these, though, are lighter blue, which means it could be more of a mix. And we still have a lot of vote left from Roanoke and from other redder parts of the state. But, yeah, you add it all up, and Reince is right to point this out, because right now there is something going on where you're just not seeing the kind of numbers that you would expect in some of these suburban areas. Biden in Prince William County, 62% of the vote. Hillary Clinton, 58%. Harris is down now to 57%. So she's still winning, just not winning by the same kind of numbers. And when you balance that out with the redder parts of the state, where you see Donald Trump racking up the big numbers over and over again, that's how you get as close as it is right now in Virginia. And just, remember how close Virginia is to North Carolina and Georgia. We're talking about similar types of voters. So the fact that they're battling it out in Virginia shouldn't really be a surprise. A lot of the folks that live there are seeing some of the same media. They're seeing some of the same advertising, and they may be responding to some of the same cross pressures. Similarly, as we talk about the blue wall that Reince was mentioning in the upper Midwest, a lot of those voters have overlap as well.